and welcome to Oulton Park. This weekend, the picturesque circuit in the northwest of England is playing host to a variety of Caterham Motorsport championships set to thrill fans young and old. The second tier of the Caterham Motorsport ladder, the Road Sports Championship, sees a field of 30-plus road-legal cars provide exceptionally close racing. The last pair of races at Croft saw Andrew Murgatroyd and Lars Hoffmann take the spoils. Hoffmann leads the championship, arriving here at Oulton Park by just 3 points from Stuart Bell, with Angelos Alvanos in third. In race 1 of the weekend, it was championship leader Lars Hoffmann who started from pole position, but he would face race-long pressure from a number of drivers keen to knock him off the top spot. Namely, fellow front row starter Ben Appleton, who was looking for his first podium finish of the year. He ran in second for much of the early part of the race before diving into the race lead at Oulton Corner. Further back, there was the usual midfield battling. A titanic train of cars led by Harry Cook were fighting for positions towards the back of the top 10. There was drama meanwhile for Anthony Warner, heavily into the barriers at Old Hall Corner, damaging his car and forcing him out of the race. At the front of the field there was some forceful driving for Appleton as he seized the lead once again from Lars Hoffmann, a lead that on this occasion he would hold to the checkered flag, taking his first win of the year. He'll be keen to double up in race 2, where he will start from pole position. So the cars starting to grid up for the second race of the weekend, the order in which they finished the first one. So Appleton on pole with Lars Hoffmann alongside, keen to get back to winning ways. Stuart Bell will line up third. We've got an onboard camera with the man who was second in the championship arriving here at Oulton Park. He could really do with a race victory here to continue his championship challenge. But we've had 5 different winners from 5 races this year. Round number 6 of the Caterham Road Sports Championship bursts into life at Oulton Park, and the better start from the front row is made by Lars Hoffmann from the outside of row number 1. And it looks as though the white number 70 car will lead down towards the first corner, 1 or 2 on the grass further back, and it's another bad start for Appleton. He didn't get off the line particularly well in race 1, but was able to fairly rapidly work his way back up towards the front of the field. Will he be able to do that again in this race? Well, we'll find out. There he is. He's all the way down in 5th position for car number 5. Race 1 winner on the wide line through Cascades. Everybody else, though, thankfully, is safely negotiating the first couple of corners. There's the number 47 car working its way through, Jonathan Moore. Keep an eye out from the back, Anthony Warner as well, who had that spin into the barriers at the towards the end of race number 1. He is already, by the looks of it, picking them off from the back of the grid. Battle for 4th then, in towards the Shell hairpin, and it's car number 22, Angelos Alvanos, looking for his first victory of the year as well, but definitely a championship contender, 3rd in the points, arriving here at Oulton Park. The first of the 2 blue and white cars that are just slightly detached from the cars in front. Hoffmann, though, is pulling away here as they round Britons for the first time of asking. What a sight they make, though. 33 identical Caterham Road Sports, 125 brake horsepower, completely road legal, these cars, and what a lot of fun they are to watch, and I would imagine to drive as well. Side by side for 4th place, and a change for 4th place there. The race 1 winner Appleton is now up into 4th ahead of Alvanos. His next target, therefore, is this man Stuart Bell, who's sliding his way through Knickerbrook Corner. Crucial acceleration zone there, up Clay Hill, and he's gesticulating up to Appleton behind, saying, "Don't race me, let's work together to try and catch the leaders." I don't think that Appleton's paying attention, though, because he's all over the curbs and the grass through the left-hand kink at the water tower and drives right around the outside at Druids. That was a brilliant move. He clearly feels that he is quicker than Bell, therefore didn't want to sit behind him for too long. Bell is now under pressure from Alvanos as well, who's looking to the inside towards Lodge Corner, but the orange car is a bit later on the brakes. He's able to hang on to 4th position. This 2 and 3 wide racing further back on the outside line and potentially about to lose some places is Ryan Errol, the green number 33 car. Loses at least 1 spot through the tight right-hander, maybe more, as they run towards the start-finish line at the end of the opening lap, a typically frenetic opening lap of Caterham racing here. Not the widest of circuits, Oulton Park. It is, in theory, difficult to overtake here, but no one told this lot. We're seeing lots of side-by-side racing up and down the order. Andy Lee's there, the blue and orange Gulf liveried car, who I think was the driver we saw on the grass running into Old Hall Corner on the first lap, car number 2. He's trying to make ground, so too Jonathan Barnett there, number 94. Jonathan just inside the top 10 in points coming into this weekend. Still, though, looking for his first podium finish of the year. Down the Lakeside Straight, this undulating, bumpy circuit is a real favourite amongst the drivers because it is not easy. It's a real challenge. It's difficult to overtake, as I said, but there is a possible chance to get up the inside there for Harry Cook into the Shell hairpin. It doesn't work, though, and as is so often the case in Caterham racing, if you go for a move that doesn't work, you end up losing momentum and losing places. Stuart Bell's got a huge smash to the windscreen there. He's been had the front of the car hit by some debris at some point along the way. He's dropped down to 4th place now, though, because the man on the move, no doubt, is race 1 winner Appleton, up into 2nd place now. There is car number 2, who we mentioned, Andy Lease, the Gulf liveried car, leaps over the curbs through Britain's. Behind him, Gideon Wilkinson in the black and yellow number 99, who's in the slipstream, pulling to the outside line downhill top into the braking zone at Hislops. It's tricky to go around the outside there, but you can do it to get the inside line for the left-hander, but that is not what Gideon is able to do. 53 is also in this battle, and that's Nicholas Smith, who started 19th and a good 5 or 6 places behind those two. So he's had a really good start as Nicholas. He's well inside the top 15 now as they race over Clay Hill. In fact, he's pulling to the right-hand side of the road there to try and get up the inside of Wilkinson towards Druids. Battle rejoined now then between the top 2 from the previous race, but in reverse order now then. Lars Hoffmann ahead, side by side behind for 3rd. That's Andrew Murgatroyd on the inside, and Angelos Alvanos trying to go around the outside of him to knock him out of the podium positions. Over the start-finish line they go, and it could be 3 abreast here as well as they debate this bottom step of the podium. Into Old Hall Corner, Chris Moore, I think that is, the number 11 car that's joining in the front, on board with Stuart Bell, who has dropped right down the order all of a sudden. So Stuart Bell's had a moment somewhere and is no longer a contender for a podium position. That looks as though he's about to try and gain a place into Cascades Corner. Can't quite do it there, though. So a disappointing race this has turned into for Stuart, who can little afford to lose the championship points. Losing control, though, up at Britain's is car number 66, Richard Hill, from towards the back of the grid. Let's see how he did that. He's all on his own. He takes a bit of curb but gets sideways going in, then he's on the dirty side of the road, then he's on the grass, and from there on in, a spin was inevitable. He should be able to hook first gear, though, and continue on his way. Back to this lead battle then, and we've had a lead change now as back into first position has gone Ben Lopez Appleton, the race 1 winner, who is well outside the top 10 in championship points, arriving here after a slightly up and down season thus far. But if he could get 2 race victories here from Oulton Park, that would do wonders for his championship hopes. You drop scores in this championship as well, and so he can sort of forget about a couple of the disappointing results from earlier on in the season if he can keep this sort of form going for the rest of the season. However, Lars Hoffmann is right behind him and looking to the inside, looking to the outside, under braking for Hislops, but there is no way through. It's been a really impressive performance this for Appleton all weekend long, and he is doing his best now to try and hang on to the race victory. Less than half a lap to go. He's not quite as quick out of Knickerbrook though, and Hoffmann pulls alongside over Clay Hill. This will give him the inside line for Druids if he can stick it out around the outside through the left-hand kink, which he does. He's got the inside line for the very high-speed double apex right-hander, and Lars Hoffmann goes through. So one more opportunity for Appleton to try and retake this race lead, and that is Lodge Corner. We've seen so many races over the years here at Oulton Park come down to the final corner. This is another example, and Appleton is back up the inside. He is going back through. Can he hang on to the checkered flag? Get the photo finish camera ready. This is going to be a close one. Hoffmann's in the slipstream. He's closing all the time, but he's not going to get there. And Ben Lopez Appleton is a double race winner in the 2019 Caterham Motorsport Championship. A brilliant last lap dice between the two of them. They've kept us entertained all weekend long. Confirmation of the result then. Stuart Bell recovered to 7th in the end, but will still lose championship points to some of his big rivals. Alvanos 3rd, Hoffmann maintains the championship lead, but a double victory for Ben Lopez Appleton.
I'm still in shock actually. I can't believe it. Coming from I mean, the last two weekends have been an absolute catastrophe. 2 DNFs, 2 DQs actually, and only a couple of points on the board, minus 24 championship points, and hopefully this will make up for it today.
Ben Lopez was unbeatable this weekend. I've tried everything, and nothing happened.
I qualified really bad in the first session. I was 11th, made it up to 5th, and then from 5th made it up to 3rd for the second race. So I'm really happy. It ended up being a really good race.
All of this means that it is still very tight at the top in the points. Hoffman just 10 points clear of Stuart Bell and Angela Salvanas, who are tied for second, with Murgatroyd fourth and Will Rossetti rounding out the top 5. The man on top at Oulton Park, though, was Ben Lopez Appleton. The Motul Caterham 7 270R Championship arrives at Oulton Park in Cheshire for the third round of the 2019 Championship. Arriving here at Oulton Park, it's Justin Heap with the championship advantage, ahead of double winner last time out Daniel Halstead, with Daniel French third. Neil Fraser and Toby Klaus round out the top 5. It was Matt Shepherd who started on pole for the first race of the weekend, but Daniel French from the outside of row 1 would lead the field into Old Hall Corner. Whilst the leaders got through in one piece, there was drama behind, as James Gilmore had a spectacular spin and was lucky to be avoided by the pack. There was more drama at Lodge as James de Lusignan rotated and collected Tom Allen in spectacular fashion. Several of the drivers were involved, and with cars scattered across the circuit, the safety car was called for. On the restart, Daniel French made the break and pulled away into a lead that he would not give away. The real battle was for second place, with James Murphy and Justin Heap swapping places almost by the corner, allowing Matt Shepherd to join in the fun as well. Matt eventually moving through into second position with a spectacular 3-wide move at Lodge. Then disaster struck for race leader French. The front left wheel parted company with his car, the red flag was thrown, and French was declared the winner, and he took a fortunate first victory of the year. Well, that victory for Daniel French means that he starts on pole for our second race of the weekend, with Matt Shepherd, the Silverstone winner, alongside him. He will be looking to try and make a good start here to go after Daniel French. Chris Moore here starts fourth on the grid, the highest placed driver on the grid who has yet to have a win this season. I wonder whether this could be his time to get on the top step of the podium. A big 31-car grid then, about to go racing on the Oulton Park International Circuit for round number 6 of the Motul Caterham 7 270R Championship. The red lights go out. Now away we go. The launch towards Old Hall Corner begins. French on the left, Shepherd on the right. French has his nose in front, I think, and the preferred line into Old Hall Corner, so the blue and yellow 77 car will lead them through the first right-hander. And do we get everybody safely through on this occasion? Let's find out. So far, so good. Couple on the grass further back. Oh no, there's contact. Off goes the number 8 car there of John Isherwood. 72 Mark Smith, I think, tagged him. There's a third car involved as well. And sadly, once again, Old Hall Corner is the scene of calamity for a few of the midfield runners. Everybody else, though, has safely got through, and hopefully those 3 should be able to rejoin. Certainly looks like one car is, and I reckon John Isherwood's number 8 machine might be able to get going. No real sign of life, though, from Mark Smith's 72 car, so that may be stuck and may require a safety car. Diving up the inside, there goes car number 6. That's Justin Heap, winner from early in the season. Championship leader coming into this race, but he runs wide on the exit of the corner and stays in 4th position, as the safety car is, perhaps unsurprisingly, thrown. Not for the first time this weekend in the 270R Championship, and that is the reason why the 72 car of Mark Smith, who I think is the first car to rotate, there he is, the orange car bouncing over the grass crease, spins into the track, clatters into John Isherwood, and the third car involved, I believe, is Richard Clegg, the 76 car, who came away from that with minimal damage, I reckon, but sadly quite a lot of damage sustained for the other 2 cars. Well, ready for a restart then, Daniel French, leaving it very late to go, but now he does go, steps on the loud pedal, through the dip, over Deer Leap, and look at the lead that he's pulled out over Matt Shepherd. Now in race 1, it was a good safety car restart that helped Daniel French pull away into a lead that he wouldn't really lose until the checkered flag, because he broke the toe. We see all the time in Caterham racing, if you can break the slipstream, that's half the battle. There's lots of battling going on further back though. Chris Moore there trying to go up the inside. We're on board now with the number 11 car. Chris Moore has had a bit of a frustrating season at times, just outside the top 10 in points arriving here at Oulton Park, and he might be about to lose a place to Greg Monks there. The number 5 car was looking up the inside through Cascades, but to no avail. On board with Shepherd, very much going after Daniel French then. In second position, he has still got a slipstream, and on what is actually a surprisingly high-speed circuit here at Oulton Park, that does play a big part in Caterham racing. Shell comes that battle behind, so there wasn't a change between Greg Monks and Chris Moore on that occasion, and this leading group of 5 or 6 cars just starting to make a break now at the head of the field. Through the left-hander and Britain's clobbering the curbs, not too hard though, because that can unsettle the car, and lead to you pointing the wrong way in a hurry. Back with Chris Moore then over hilltop. You can see the rise and fall of what is a spectacular circuit here at Oulton Park, one of the real drivers' favourites. Limited overtaking opportunities in some categories of racing, but in Caterham racing it seems you can overtake pretty much wherever the mood takes you. Right now though, they are staying single file in this lead group, out of Knickerbrook, up Clay Hill. This is another one of those really high-speed sections though, where the slipstream starts to bunch everybody back together again. Chris Moore not really quite close enough though to Justin Heap in front of him. Indeed, Justin starting to break away from him slightly. There's the train of cars next behind, and the number 25 car that is, that's trying to do some defending. That's Neil Fraser, just towards the back end of the top 10 for the time being. So the first full racing lap about to be completed with Daniel French the race leader. Almost a move made there up the inside into Lodge Corner. That was 79 Lewis Thompson trying to get past Neil Fraser. Novice Cross on the back of his car, meaning that he's a relative newcomer to racing, and a spin at Druids there. That I think is Darren Holcroft who's gone off. And is that car going to be beached? He's spinning the rear wheels but finds some traction, and it is indeed the number 75 car of Holcroft who rejoins the circuit, having lost a few places, but no serious damage done. Back with the lead battle then, Matt Shepherd here, the aerial view looking out over the top of his helmet as he rushes out of Cascades. Further back, the usual midfield dicing though is still going on, as we so often see in this championship. 63 there defending the inside line through Lodge Corner and trying to continue to defend the position on the exit of the turn. And that is Scott Parker at the head of what is a particularly fierce battle. Considering that these cars are fighting for a position at the back end of the top 20, it really is still no holds barred racing. 64 is the man trying to get through Neil Evans with another Novice Cross on the back of his car. Ducking and diving, pulls to the right hand side of the road down towards Denton's. That gives him the outside line for Cascades, and it's a brave man who tries to go around the outside of that particular corner. Neil Fraser meanwhile still keeping his elbows out here to keep Greg Monks at bay. And behind them both now appears to be Chris Moore. So Chris Moore, yeah, unfortunately dropping down the order slightly now. Onboard camera, unfortunately not bringing him much luck. There's some luck for him though, because off in front of him goes Neil Fraser. That was one of the easiest places that Chris will gain all day long. Neil Fraser with a lazy spin at the Britain chicane. Couldn't quite see how that started, but that is a fairly common place to go off, as I suggested earlier on. Let's see if the external shot tells us any more. Hits the curb, loses the rear, and the car turns left when it should turn right. Thankfully, he avoids the barriers though, and Neil again is lucky in a way in that he is able to rejoin, having not only not damaged the car, but not lost too many places. Battle for the race lead though is well and truly joined. Daniel French under all sorts of pressure and about to lose the race lead. He slides out wide, but it's not Matt Shepherd that's gone past him, is it? Because Matt Shepherd has also dropped down the order slightly. He's now recovering back into second position, but that's James Murphy in the black and orange number 3 car that has taken the race lead away. Shepherd coming through into second place. Can Daniel French go right round the outside of Old Hall Corner to fend him off? Yes, he can. Find some real traction on the outside line. And in fact, Shepherd with the tight inside line. It looked good on the entry, but on exit, he's a little bit slow off the corner. And so Greg Monks in the number 5 car, who's been carving his way up the order through the middle portion of this race, is almost able to move ahead of him. So new race order then, James Murphy leading the way, Daniel French second, Matt Shepherd third and Greg Monks fourth. Any one of these 4 drivers could legitimately win this race. Still, they're all out of shape through Island Bend as they start to push these cars slightly beyond the limits of adhesion. But James Murphy out in front is in a way the sitting duck now, isn't he? He's the one that's punching the hole in the air for everyone behind to follow through. That in theory makes their cars go quicker in a straight line, and that is more than often how you build an overtaking challenge in Caterham racing. Over the curbs again, up over hilltops, steep uphill acceleration zone, and then they appear back into view where Daniel French is surely going to attack for the race lead down at his lops. Looks to the outside, but there's nothing doing there. James Murphy driving down the middle of the road so as not to overly defend and hold everybody up, but equally trying to deter French from launching a move up the right-hand side of the road there. Both the leading 2 run a little bit wide out of Knickerbrook Corner, and indeed we are hearing that James Murphy is being investigated for exceeding track limits, so we'll wait and see if anything comes of that. Meanwhile, he's got more things to worry about because Daniel French pulls alongside him into Druids Corner. On the outside line though, that leaves the door open momentarily for Matt Shepherd, who can't quite pick the pocket of the race 1 winner. Down towards Lodge Corner they go then. James Murphy in the race lead. Daniel French under pressure from Shepherd again for second place. Shepherd looking at the inside. Can't quite get through there though. out of Lodge, through Deer Leap, over the hill, and James Murphy has put in a great defensive drive. We'll see the checkered flag, but we are hearing has been given a time penalty for exceeding track limits. So Daniel French essentially is a double race winner here at Oulton Park. Dramatic stuff at the front of the field. Further back there are still battles going on. This is the fight for 14th, would you believe? Al Melton with Ollie Pratt involved in this as well. No matter where you are up and down the order, you've got someone to play with, and it looks as though Melton will hang on to 14th place in car number 95. James Murphy wins on the road, but is given a time penalty that will drop him down to 5th position. There is confirmation of that result. Then 5th for Murphy, Heap is 4th. Greg Monks gets on the podium with Matt Shepherd 2nd, and a double race victory for Daniel French.
They feel a couple of like hollow victories really. What happened in the first race where I didn't cross the finish line in first but still won because the wheel came off, and then this race I didn't cross the finish line in first either. You know, James drove really well, but unfortunately got a penalty for track limits. I'm happy with the points that I've scored for the championship this weekend, and yeah, it's turned things around a bit for me, so I'm really happy.
And the start was really kind of sensible. We all kind of worked together to pull a gap, and then the last few laps are really good fun.
It was hard work, to be honest. We just had to keep it tidy, keep it together, and I ended up teaming up basically with Chris, and we raced a lot together last year, so we know when not to fight, and we just felt, well, if we just keep it in line now and just keep pushing, then there is a chance towards the end when that first pack of 4 cars start battling that we can catch up with them.
Well, that double race victory for French moves him solidly into championship contention, now just 13 points off the championship leader Justin Heap. Daniel Halstead joint second though, ahead of Neil Fraser and Greg Monks. A great weekend for Daniel French, 2 fortuitous but valuable race victories. The Santander Caterham 7 310R Championship rolls into Oulton Park off the back of a dominant first 4 rounds of the championship for Gordon Sawyer. As a result of those 4 race victories, he holds a 10-point championship lead, arriving at Oulton Park over Jay McCormack, with James Beardwell some way back in 3rd. Tom Grensinger and David Yates round out the top 5. It was a breathless opening encounter at Oulton Park, with Jay McCormack from the outside of row 2 snatching the lead into the first corner. Further back, there was drama as Ben Gillias went off at Cascades and spun in front of the pack, very lucky to be avoided by everybody else. At the front, it was a 9-car train for the race lead, which in the early portion of the race saw McCormack getting his elbows out and keeping Andrew Perry at bay. Contact between Matt Topham and Doug Christie sent them both out of the race in spectacular fashion down in Hislops, and that would not be the last drama at that part of the circuit. At the front, Jay McCormack was doing everything he could to get back into the race lead. Once he found a way past Gordon Sawyer though, Andrew Perry engaged in a fierce battle with McCormack for the race victory. Contact was made on more than one occasion before eventually more wheel banging down at the chicane sent McCormack into a spin, delayed Andrew Perry and allowed Tom Grensinger through to take the race victory in dramatic fashion. So Tom Grensinger on pole position for race 2 as well here at Oulton Park, with Richard Lambert alongside him, the 2 blue cars sharing the front row, Andrew Perry and Pete Walters on row number 2. Race number 6 of the season this is for the Santander Caterham 7 310R Championship, expecting more of the same sort of drama we saw earlier on today. On board with James Beardwell for the start, he gets a good launch off the line, up through the gears, there's a gap which closes and there's contact unfortunately with Martin Pratt, and bang into the barriers unfortunately will go Beardwell. Quite a lot of damage I think sustained to both cars. We may unfortunately have already seen our first 2 retirements. Running wide there was Donald Henshaw, the blue and white number 19 car, on board with championship leader Gordon Sawyer. Now Gordon Sawyer ended up dropping down to 7th place at the end of the previous race. That was not good for his early championship advantage. He'll be keen to try and fight back in this race if at all possible. Everyone else getting through safely, that is Martin Pratt. Unfortunately there is damage on the 52 car after that tangle he had with James Beardwell. And sadly, he may be about to pull off the road into retirement. It's bodywork rubbing on the tyre, but there may well be steering and suspension damage. The exhausts are fairly vulnerable on these cars as well. Either way, too much damage to continue, and he pulls off the road. Back at the sharp end, though, it is an enormous queue of Caterhams that make their way out of Shell for the first time of asking. On board with the points leader, Gordon Sawyer, who's in about 6th position, I reckon, as they turn through Britain. So he's gained 1 position by my reckoning from his starting spot. Needs to gain some more though, because the likes of Jay McCormack are also starting to take points out of him, as well of course as Tom Grensinger, the race leader, who was the first person not named Gordon Sawyer to win a race this season earlier on today, and he's looking for the double now this afternoon. There around the outside line goes Harry Landy, the 21 car, dicing away with car number 30 there, Ben Gillias, who we saw having that moment in the previous race at Cascades. And there, unfortunately, is James Beardwell, and he's pulled off, I think, at the same part of the circuit that Martin Pratt has, so both of them are out after this contact off the line. Beardwell got a good start. They were already 3 abreast in front of him, and 4, unfortunately, was too many Caterhams wide across this fairly narrow start-finish line. In fairness to James, he recovered from that quickly, tried to get going again, but too much damage was done. So the race leaders then down towards Lodge Corner, and Jay McCormack is out in front, but running off wide behind is Andrew Perry. That was a bizarre moment. He sort of rattles down the barriers, now full throttle to try and dig the car out of the gravel trap. He is going to rejoin, but a lot further down the order than he was. That was a bizarre moment there for Andrew Perry, who was, it seemed, a little way behind the leading quartet going into the corner, and then suddenly found himself getting a bit too close for comfort. Damage there to the 66 car as it works its way through Old Hall Corner, 66 being Jake Swan-Dixon. Now here's a replay of what happened to Andrew Perry. I think he was watching his mirrors there to try and keep an eye on what Donald Henschel was doing, and completely missed his braking point and had to take to the grass and eventually the barriers to avoid running into the back of the cars in front. Did well to get away with that without too much damage, but quite a bit of time is lost. Donald Henschel getting stuck in again, and so too into second position, look, is Gordon Sawyer. So the points leader is now starting to make his presence felt at the sharp end of the field. Grensinger leads the way, Sawyer is in second position, third for McCormack, having started 12th. So both he and Sawyer started outside the top half dozen and have already got themselves into podium positions. Donald Henschel is in fourth position there, the blue car with the black stripes. And then at the back of this group, the all-black car is that of Pete Walters, number 88. So a 5-car train fighting for the race lead, fighting for the podium positions, out of Druids, down towards the braking zone at Lodge Corner. McCormack ducks out of the slipstream, so too does Gordon Sawyer, who has this points lead to try and protect, remember, but at the same time, a race victory now would go down very well indeed. Who's going to come out of this on top? McCormack's had the better exit from Lodge Corner, goes to the inside line. He's getting a slipstream from Grensinger as well, and in fact, he might try and go up the inside of both of them. Yes, he is. McCormack going for the race lead, goes from third to first in one move. That was brilliant stuff. Grensinger hangs on to second, Henschel goes through into third, and in the end it's Gordon Sawyer that sort of lost out there. He was second 2 corners ago, and now he's off the podium with work to be done once more. That is how quickly your fortunes can change in Caterham racing, and the 310R Championship once again providing great entertainment. With smoke there coming from Donald Henschel's car. I think that was just maybe the bodywork rubbing under extreme load out of the corner, as the leaders were almost side by side going into Island Bend. It's a brave part of the circuit to try and run wheel to wheel though, and in the end Jay McCormack backed out of that potential manoeuvre. So the 3 blue cars at the front of the field, the blue and yellow is Tom Grensinger, blue and red is Jay McCormack, and the blue and black in third position, Donald Henschel, who's had an entertaining race so far, it's fair to say. Looking for a podium result here if he can get one. Takes lots of curb, noticeably more curb than anybody else through the right-hand element of Britain's. Didn't really seem to help his exit speed though, because Gordon Sawyer is all over him going down the hill, and Gordon in the yellow and black number 77 car looks to the inside line. He's going to be late on the brakes, but the gap is always closing. Locks up both front wheels, did well to avoid contact, and will now be slower through the chicane than the chasing Pete Walters, who tries to get alongside and can't quite do it. So up the hill, they stay in the same order. This is typically close racing. You've got to be careful though when you're in a pack of cars like this. If you go for a move and you end up losing momentum, you could lose 2 or 3 positions at least. So really, in a way, if you're right at the front or right at the back of the queue, you have the advantage because you only have one job to worry about, either defence or attack. Everyone in the middle is trying to do 2 things at once, and they're going to be almost 3 abreast as they go down into Lodge Corner. McCormack round the outside, though, takes the race lead. A good exit from Druids, a good slipstream down the straight, and then late on the brakes through Lodge Corner means that the blue and red number 25 car is now back out in front. Grensinger fighting back though, looks to the inside, down to Old Hall Corner and makes it look very easy, goes back through into the race lead. So these 2 trading the lead between themselves. For third place, Donald Henschel and Gordon Sawyer battling, and they will be almost side by side, I think, going down towards Cascades. Sawyer on the left-hand side of the shot has the outside line for Cascades. Henschel fights back, and there's contact between the 2 of them, and they're both off into the gravel with heavy damage for both cars, and that is the championship leader involved. Gordon Sawyer, after coming into this weekend, what had been a flawless championship campaign with 4 wins from 4 races, At Oulton Park, it's all gone wrong. A 7th place in race 1 is followed by a non-finish in race 2, and it looks like Henshaw is out as well. Well, that all leaves Tom Grensinger and Jay McCormack really to debate the race lead now over the remaining half a lap that is left in this race. It's been another thoroughly entertaining affair, and one that may well have a huge bearing on the championship outcome come the end of the season. That is really the first really bad race that we've seen for Gordon Sawyer, frustratingly just as he was starting to mix it for a podium position for the first time this weekend. There he is. He was the championship leader, but likely to be so now though, because Tom Grensinger is already on for a really good point score here, and that's just after race 1. If he can win race number 2 as well, that's even more points in the bag, but Jay McCormack will have something to say about that. He's in the slipstream, just 2 corners to go now over Clay Hill. This is where the toe starts to take effect. McCormack closes in. Can he draw alongside towards Druid's corner? If he could, he opted not to, because I think he's focusing more on the run towards Lodge Corner. Remember, this is where he got the lead a lap ago, around the outside of Grensinger. It will be the outside that is presented to him again though, because Grensinger immediately moves over to the inside of the road to defend. To the outside goes McCormack, gets his nose in front, tries to turn across the front of the race leader and can't quite do it. Locks up and runs wide, and in fact that could allow Pete Walters to attack for 2nd place on the run to the checkered flag, which for the 2nd time today is taken by Tom Grensinger. A brilliant drive that was. A double race victory at Oulton Park. McCormack is fairly happy with 2nd, and Pete Walters will round out the podium finishers. This is the fight meanwhile for 8th position, with Tim Child there sweeping around the outside of the walking wounded Jake Swan Dixon. They'll both be inside the top 10 at the end of the race though. Well, deep breath everybody, that was a phenomenal race. Both races today for the 310Rs have been sensational, and both races today for the 310Rs have been won by Tom Grensinger. Joining him on the podium, Pete Walters in 3rd, Jay McCormack 2nd place. They will all take good points out of erstwhile championship leader Gordon Sawyer. There was no beating Grensinger today though.
It was really, really close. It was nice to be able to tow up to people and get them going into turn 1 and going down to Cascades, and there was a lot of hard-fought battles in there that I gladly won.
Yeah, awesome. First year in Caterham racing, and to come to the 3rd weekend and get one too is amazing. Absolute credit to the team. They've pulled everything out and really went overboard to get us here today. So massive thanks to all the team. I can't thank them enough. It's fabulous.
Oh, I mean, after the first race, I was kind of strategically just sitting there, just having a look at what's going on. I'm still running a new engine, so it still needs a little bit more to free it up. And I was just watching the guys in front, and it was like, I'll stay with you. It's so close, and it was such tight battles at the front, anything could happen, and I was just literally waiting to pounce. So yeah, it went my way.
Well, after 2 fantastic races here at Oulton Park, it's Jay McCormack who comes out on top by just 5 points from Tom Grensinger. Very much a contender now. Gordon Sawyer drops down to 3rd, ahead of David Yates and Andrew Perry. Grensinger then the man to beat, and he'll be looking to continue this momentum through the rest of the year. Oulton Park Circuit in Cheshire welcomes the Caterham 7 420R Championship, the top tier of Caterham's racing ladder in the UK. Arriving here at Oulton Park, it's John Byrne with the points advantage after 3 wins from the first 4 races. Will Smith, David Henderson, Tim Dickens and Henry Heaton are very close behind though, and looking to close the gap today. The opening race of the day for the 420Rs saw a race-long battle between front row starters John Byrne and Richard Ainscoe, with Byrne taking the early advantage. Further back, it was the usual busy, chaotic run through the first few corners, with 1 or 2 drivers sustaining some war wounds over the opening exchanges. Matt Higginson was involved in a great dice with Tom Eden and Paul Vernon for much of the race, whilst at the front, Ainscoe and Byrne continued to trade the lead. As they pulled away from the rest of the pack, the battle towards the back of the top 10 gained more and more excitement as a sideways number 64, Tom Eden, saved the moment, lost the positions. Then there was drama for John Byrne, the championship leader, out with mechanical drama, and that would cost him many championship points. Further back, Sir Chris Hoy, 6-time Olympic champion, was getting stuck in and did well to save that moment. At the front though, it was victory for David Henderson, his 2nd win of the year, to move himself right onto the tail of John Byrne in the championship. fantastic opening race then. Race 2 promises more of the same excitement, with David Henderson now a double winner in the championship, with Tim Dickens alongside him on the front row. Richard Ainscough and Aaron Head come from row number 2, whilst John Byrne starts right at the back and really could do with making progress. Red lights on then, ready to go racing, away we go. The rush towards Old Hall Corner begins, and on the left hand side of the road, David Henderson, the red and black number 5 car, appears to have held on, with Aaron Head, the black car with the pink roll cage, charging around the outside of everyone into second place through Old Hall Corner. Nicely done. On board with Chris Aubrey now then, who runs a bit wide over the grass, rejoined just behind Matt Higginson, with whom he did battle for much of the opening race of the weekend. The disc lock liveried machine just in front, gaining ground as a result of that moment for our onboard camera car, which is still wiggling around on slightly cold tyres on the way out of Cascades and down the Lakeside Straight. Tucked into the slipstream then, this enormous pack of Caterham 420Rs, the top tier of Caterham racing in the UK, the fastest cars that we see race here at Oulton Park, and some of the closest racing as well. Henderson starting though to try and make a break here from Aaron Head in second position. The rest of them filing through. Looks like Richard Ainscough is there in third, with Will Smith, the orange car, fourth. And then leaping over the curbs, Tim Dickens is down to fifth position, having started on the outside of row 1, so not a great start for him. Towards the back of the grid there, car number 80 is Alex Jordan, the pink machine. He's lost some ground, having started 14th, now down to about 20th, halfway around the opening lap. Higginson there up the inside, and John Byrne, the red number 3 car, right behind him now. So John Byrne is already making storming progress from the back of the grid, and looks like he might gain another position here before too much longer. He's tucked into the toe. He's already overtaken this man, Chris Aubrey, on the run into the Hislop chicane, and now Chris has a grandstand view of the Matt Higginson and John Byrne battle in front of him. Byrne gets to the inside through Druids, makes it look very easy indeed, and through he will sail. If John can continue to make this sort of progress, a top 5 finish definitely isn't out of the question. That really is the bare minimum requirement from this race. After all of those championship points were lost early on, he gains another position now at the expense of Alex Kirbley. The number 47 car goes down a spot, and then Sir Chris Hoy behind, who is also tagging on to this lead pack of cars, which completes the opening lap, with Will Smith now into second place, look ahead of Aaron Head. And there, John Byrne is also at the tail end of the lead queue, so that's a really solid opening lap. He's pulling away now from this battle between Aubrey and Higginson, and Aubrey looks to the inside. There's a bit of a touch there, a bit of the rear wing on the rear left corner of Higginson's car goes flying. No major damage done though. These cars are well used to shedding wings. They, of course, serve an aerodynamic purpose, but the cars can function perfectly well without them. Aubrey, though, has delayed himself out of the corner and now has someone looking up the inside through Island Bend. Can we turn into the apex? Not really, but I think we have held on to the position for the time being. Not holding on to position though at the front of the field is David Henderson, because William Smith has gone through now into first position. Car number 27 out in front. Will Smith looking for his first victory of the season, and actually arrived here this weekend outside of the top 5 in points. So William, who for many was one of the drivers expected pre-season to fight for the championship, not really having the start to the year that he'd have been hoping for. Doing a nice job here though to assert himself as one of the regular front runners. John Byrne, we know, is a regular front runner, and he's just got past Rob Watts there, the number 77 car on the run into Hislops. Another place gain, so he's 1, 2, 4, 6, 7th or 8th position now, I reckon. 7th place, I think that is, as they go over the hill. So John Byrne is a coming, definitely. Can Will Smith escape out in front before he arrives on the scene? That's the next question. Will is certainly doing his best to do so. He's pulling away on the grass from third position. There was Richard Ainscough by the looks of it. Did well to gather that together. David Henderson still in second position, 4th place, excuse me, for Ainscough, because Aaron Head is in third still, number 19. There, the battle between Alex Quirbley, number 47, and Rob Watts, number 77. Those two shared the 4th row of the grid, and Chris Hoy just behind them as well. Green and black car making its presence felt now in this leading group, which stretches outside of the top 10 though, such is the close quarters nature of this championship. Speaking of close, the gap at the front has definitely shrunk over the last half a lap or so. Looks as though race leader William Smith's going to have some defending to do before too much longer. Meanwhile, the Watts and Quirbley battle rages on as well. There is Chris Hoy, you can't miss him, can you? Just at the tail end of that group, maybe starting to lose the toe slightly. He'll be hoping to see a bit more battling in front of him that could delay those cars and bring him back onto terms with them. Through Shell, defensive line taken there by Rob Watts, just twitches slightly under braking, but the banking at that corner will catch you if you're carrying a bit too much speed into the turn, so you can take a few liberties under braking and get away with it. This has been a change now. Chris Aubrey is ahead of Matt Higginson, so finally he's managed to find a way through. We trust he's done it without contact on this occasion. queue of cars forming behind now as well, all trying to take advantage. Henry Kramer, I think, is the red number 21 car just behind one of our 2 onboard camera cars in this race that have got themselves together, because we're now on board with Higginson looking at the rear of Aubrey's car. The 2 having swapped positions earlier on in this lap through his lots, using all of the curb and then through Knickerbrook Corner. Careful not to run too wide here of the apex, that will slow you down up the hill, and that's exactly what Chris Aubrey did. So Matt Higginson closes in, pulls to the right hand side of the road. The door is slammed in his face though. What about the outside at Druids? Again, no way through, so Chris Aubrey holds onto the position by the skin of his teeth. Through Lodge Corner, more changes at the front of the field now, because Aaron Head has got himself to the front of the pack, and second position for David Henderson, so William Smith down to third now. Fourth position being held by Richard Ainscough at the moment, car number 58. Richard also was struggling in the points coming into this weekend, so he'll be glad to be in the lead pack, but runs a bit wide there out of Old Hall Corner, leaves himself under pressure from Timothy Dickens for fourth position. Side by side they will go, the black car on the outside line, John Byrne there trying to take advantage as well. Dickens with the wider line into Cascade, tucks back in the slipstream down the Lakeside straight, but they're really delaying themselves now, allowing the leading trio to start to pull away, but they themselves are starting to do battle too. There are still plenty of things that could change here in the little time that's left in this race. Defensive line taken by Ainscough, fending off Tim Dickens for now as they run through the Shell hairpin. They all stack up, and William Smith slows. William Smith from third position, the early race leader, pulling off at the side of the road, and that's an absolute disaster for William Smith. That'll be his first non-finish of the season so far, and at a really bad time, because it looked as though he was set to take some good points out of this race. John Byrne, though, has somehow found his way into the race lead, so John Byrne taking advantage of the bunching that was going on in front of him. He's gone through into the lead of the race, with David Henderson still in second place. Every time we look at David Henderson, he seems to be in second position, regardless of how much chopping and changing has gone on around him. He can't quite get himself into the race lead. He's got only a couple of corners left to do this now, because we're on the final lap of the race. John Byrne, sensationally, from 22nd and last on the grid, has found his way to the front just in the nick of time. The blue car there is Henry Heaton, charging around the outside of everybody though, with one last ditch effort to get to the front. He might not get the lead, but he almost certainly will go around the outside of David Henderson for second place. It's going to be a real scramble to the checkered flag, which looks like it will be taken for the 4th time this year by John Byrne, who punches the air with delight. What a finish to the race that was. John Byrne, out of nowhere, comes from the back to win it, and that will do his championship hopes the world of good. Confirmation then of what was a very close result indeed. The top 5 cars separated by 0.6 of a second, with Henry Heaton, David Henderson and John Byrne your podium finishers.
Yeah, at this point for the first while I was in the lead, doing some good lap time, thinking I've just got to control this race. And then the engine let go, coming down the back straight, 8 laps in, which is it's a brand new motor, and that's where the lap goes. And DW Motorsport done just an amazing job of getting me up just before the start of that race. And we didn't have flat shiftings. I was manually gear changing up and down.
Yeah, honestly, I'm really pleased with that. I couldn't ask for any more, first, maybe 2 wins, but, that was all right. I just more or less stayed out of trouble, but it was quite difficult at times.
It was all about the last lap as ever with Caterham's, really. So great to be up at the sharp end and finishing on the podium. It's so competitive, this championship, so it's fantastic to be up there with the fast guys, and yeah, I'm going to be enjoying that podium.
Well, John Byrne's fight back means that he is only 1 point behind David Henderson, the championship leader, despite the disaster of race 1. Tim Dickens and Henry Heaton have closed in, and he can't count out Aaron Head or William Smith yet. Well, brilliant racing all round this weekend. Be sure to join us next time at Snetterton for more of the same.